Hello, hello, and welcome to
Practice Time with Jamie.
and Amy.
I'm Jamie. I am a family-based therapist in the Philadelphia area, and I am part of the Sentio team.
I'm Amy. I'm a relational therapist also here in Philly, also part of the Sentio team.
And today we are stepping into Schema therapy, which is not something I have much experience with. It wasn't really a part of the graduate program that Amy and I attended. Amy, have you had much experience with this since graduating? Yeah.
No, which I think will be interesting to practice some of these exercises with like no background of this model.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Today we are going to be looking at exercise 2, supporting and strengthening the healthy adult mode.
Yeah.
That language makes it feel like a superpower.
Totally.
Like, healthy adult mode activated.
And it seems like, based on the skill description, that the idea is listening for, validating, and supporting that mode. And they describe the healthy adult mode as like this kind of part that's rational, that nurtures, that protects, that validates.
Yeah, this like superhero metaphor is just really working for me in this.
I like it. I'm imagining like chemotherapists listening to us and being like, superhero mode, what are they talking about?
Like, what is this, amateur hour over here? Jeez.
Yes,
yeah. Yes, in fact it is. So let's take a closer look at the 2 skill criteria for this exercise. So the first criteria is that the therapist will support the client's autonomy by, just as Amy was saying, pointing out healthy adult mode behaviors, which can include things like making decisions, setting limits, and acting to get a need met in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. And the second criteria is that the therapist will validate and praise evidence of that healthy adult mode. So, for example, displays of competence, courage, achievement, limit setting, self-advocacy, and/or assertiveness.
Cool. Okay, so criteria 1, support the client's autonomy by pointing out the healthy adult mode, and then 2, validate and praise evidence of that mode.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right.
Amy, would you do me the honors of being my client whom I help to cultivate this healthy adult mode?
I will be your client, yes.
Cool.
Okay. I was able to tell my wife that I wanted to have sex more often. It's an important part of life, and I don't want us to end up feeling like roommates instead of lovers. She was a bit upset that I was so direct, but it was important to me to let her know how important it is to me. I wasn't critical of her. I just expressed my need.
Yeah, so you were able to, as you said, express this really important need. And that really, in expressing that need to her, I mean, that was a really brave and assertive thing for you to do. That was a really difficult conversation. And you were still, able to step into that conversation. And that's really challenging and awesome.
Nice. So checking criteria for that response. I think that you met criteria 1 by pointing out this mode of, in this case, like setting limits, getting a need met in a certain way. You highlighted that part of this conversation I had with my partner. And then, yeah, I think you met criteria 2. You were really validating my assertiveness, my self-advocacy. So I think you got both of those.
Awesome. I would like to try that one again, because as I'm looking at the criteria, I think I could have highlighted a bit more the idea of like having the need met in a healthy, or acting to have the need met in a healthy way. Because that seems to be such a focal point of this, right? Healthy adult mode.
I like that. Okay. So I was able to tell my wife that I wanted to have sex more often. It's an important part of life, and I don't want us to end up feeling like roommates instead of lovers. She was a bit upset that I was so direct, but it was important to me to let her know how important it is to me. I wasn't critical of her. I just expressed my need.
Yeah. So not only were you able to express this need to her, but you were able to do it in a very honest and a very healthy and adult way.
Mm.
And that is a really, really difficult thing to do, to, kind of be assertive and be brave and having those conversations with your partner.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you did a really good job. That felt a little more flowy on the second try. I think you definitely met both criteria. This may be just a personal preference, but one thing in your response, you were like, that was a very adult thing to do, which is like part of the skill and the criteria, but it felt a little bit like patronizing almost. Maybe it depends like what age the client is too. So I think you really met criteria, but just interestingly, I had a reaction to that.
That is interesting too. And since like I don't know much about schema therapy, like I don't know how much the language of healthy adult mode is used and instilled into the clients.
Yeah.
So maybe in schema therapy, like they're socialized to understand like, cool, healthy adult mode. But at the same time, I can totally recognize how out of context someone saying like, hey, that was really adult of you, great job, can sound, yeah, maybe like feel a little condescending or patronizing. It can maybe not feel great. So I appreciate that acknowledgement.
Okay, ready to level up a bit?
Yes.
Okay. Honestly, you seem like you're bored with me, and I can feel a part of myself just wanting to become angry and critical of you. I don't like it when I have to entertain you just like I had to do with my parents for my whole life. I thought this was a space where I could just be me.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you share a lot of really honest feelings with me. I appreciate you telling me that, you're something that I'm doing is making you feel like I'm bored with you. And for you to express that level of honesty to me, for you to, assert yourself in that way, and communicate these feelings that you're having with me, that's a really difficult thing to do. So I'm glad that you shared that with me. It's
Okay.
hard. It's a tough one. It was tough.
I didn't know that that was the end.
Yeah. I feel like I met criteria, but I don't think that I appropriately addressed the entirety of your client statement.
It was a big statement.
Yeah.
Well, let's check criteria and see how it matches up. I think you met criteria 1 by pointing out me sharing with you this honest feedback. I think you could do better at like specifically pointing out what the healthy adult mode is, like in how I'm asserting myself or expressing a need.
I think I could have been also in criteria 2 more specific and more concrete in the validation and the praise. I think it was like a little wishy-washy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was in part because I didn't have something quite as specific that I was grasping onto as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, I was like focusing on this more broad idea of like being honest with me, as opposed to something more specific about this healthy adult mode behavior. I would love if we could just jump right to the example for this one.
Sure.
Because I was just like, I can just keep talking and talking.
Yeah. Okay, so again, the statement says, you seem like you're bored with me, and I can feel a part of myself just wanting to become angry and critical of you. I don't like it when I feel like I have to entertain you just like I had to do for my parents my whole life. I thought this was a space where I could just be me.
Okay, and the response is, well, that certainly cannot feel good. Thank you for telling me in this way and not just becoming angry and critical. It's criteria 1. I am not bored at all with you, and I'm really glad for you sharing how you are feeling. This is a really important display of your healthy adult part. I'd be happy to talk through this more and pay attention to what I'm doing that leads you to feel this way. Criteria 2. Okay, so also a pretty long-winded response, and now I don't feel quite so off base with like, why am I still talking? Oh my gosh. But this is also really helpful because it addresses what we were just talking about with that previous example, where, yes, I guess in schema therapy, the therapist is labeling this healthy adult part.
I liked that response too, because it was, more concrete, right? Not just like, great job for being honest, but like, oh, you're showing here this adult mode in being honest with me.
And it even highlighted, like, instead of becoming angry and critical.
Yeah.
Let's give one more a go.
Okay. What should I do about continuing to go out with Mark? Sometimes I enjoy his company and feel that he values me, but other times he's bossy and tells me what to do or pushes what he wants sexually. I don't want to lose him, but I don't like the way he treats me sometimes.
Yeah, so it sounds like this part of you that's questioning what you want to do in your relationship with Mark, that part of you is like your healthy adult part that's kind of kicking in and saying, I have some need here that's not being met. What action should I be taking that will help me meet that need? And that's really, really awesome. I'm really, really glad to hear that part of you is kind of kicking in right now in this situation.
Nice. I really liked that response. Checking criteria, I think that you definitely more concretely met criteria 1 to really point out that healthy adult mode coming online when I'm considering like what I'm needing in my relationship. And then you were, as you always are, very validating, saying, I'm really happy to hear that part coming online. That's awesome. So I think you met both criteria.
I would like if we could check out the example response for this one too.
Okay. So again, the statement says, what should I do about continuing to go out with Mark? Sometimes I enjoy his company and feel that he values me, but other times he's bossy and tells me what to do or pushes what he wants sexually. I don't want to lose him, but I don't like the way he treats me sometimes.
And the example response is, you started with a question, but I think you also gave the answer. This is your healthy adult mode. You are clear about what you like and don't like with Mark. That's criteria 1. I'm glad to hear you weighing the pros and cons and realizing that the decision is up to you in the end. Criteria 2. I like that they kind of highlighted the client's autonomy, like in the end, the decision is up to you, and a level of self-awareness that they already have, right? Because the client, in the client statement, they did present a question and also did present the answer, to some extent to that question. So that was helpful.
Yeah. How was this intro to schema therapy practice for you?
I liked it progressively more as we went through. Like first one, like, okay, a little bumpy. Second one, bumpy. Again, once I got a little more comfortable and had, like I said, schema language, that was very helpful. And in family-based work that I do, one of the big pillars that we focus on is executive functioning. So I think this really pairs well with that because it is highlighting this healthy adult mode and really encouraging action or highlighting constructive actions that are already being taken to then encourage the client to continue to take those actionable steps. Like, hey, you're doing this thing and this thing is already great. Cool. Like, let's keep that ball rolling.
I'm imagining as the client having a therapist like name that. I wouldn't have language to be like, oh yes, this is like my mode that's coming online, but there's something like really empowering about that. And again, kind of concrete, like, oh, if a therapist named that, maybe I could say like, oh yeah, that is that healthy adult mode that I'm stepping into.
Cool. Thanks for being my schema therapy client today, Ames.
Thanks for being my therapist. I think you did a good job on some long, kind of hard statements.
And thank you all for checking out another practice time with Jamie
and Amy. We'll see you next time.